Yeah, I mean, it can't be, it has to be mentioned too that he lost his wife, Jan, which really hurt him and really set him. This is many, many years ago, but you never get over something like that. So JR's he's had his share of obstacles to overcome, the ones you mentioned and the one I just mentioned as well, all equally as terrifying and scary and really just hard to overcome. One thing, much less all those things put together. So my heart goes out to him. Our prayers and our family go out to his, to see hopefully the surgery success. He doesn't need too much treatment that's going to kind of like really affect him, because that treatment is, I've seen it firsthand. That treatment is no joke, and hopefully he can get back to doing what he loves. I definitely want to reach out to him and see how he's doing. It's just not being on social media and not checking out any of the news or anything outside of what you tell me. This makes me feel bad because I had no idea he even had it. I had no idea there was surgery. I had no idea of any of these things. So that's all that can be said. I mean, just keep fighting, JR. Keep fighting and keep wanting to be around, because you're a much needed asset in this world, and especially in professional wrestling. And yes, you have a question here about, is Jim Ross the greatest play-by-play commentator ever? Yes. Yes.
Okay, which era of JR? NWA, WCW, WWF?
All of them are equally as great in a different, even the good old JR with the cowboy hat. Every reincarnation, I guess, or adjustment or environment that JR commentates, didn't he commentate New Japan with Josh Barnett a couple of times too?
Yeah, for a while on Access, not Access. It's the channel that Ring of Honor was on at one point as well, wasn't it? What was
Sinclair.
Sinclair. I think that was on there for a few years.
He was really, really good. Now, sometimes with the names, anybody's going to have difficulties with those names. But JR, in other words, you're talking about, is he great in NWA, WCW, WWF, WWE with the name change, AEW, New Japan? It doesn't matter. It's still Jim Ross, the most recognizable voice outside of Vince McMahon's. I'd put Joey Styles in there, but Joey's a solo one-man commentary. It's different. JR can hand things to King or other people that are commentating with him, and that's difficult in its own right. Let's think about this. AEW, JR still stood out commentating and will still stand out commentating when he comes back. So when he did that, how many people were in the commentary booth? Anywhere from another 1 to 3 people. And JR still managed to control the narrative and keep business moving forward. Yes, 100% the greatest. I would say the only person that would give him a run for his money in that 2-3-man commentary booth would be Vince McMahon. But I'd prefer JR because it feels like a football announcer, a baseball, a professional sports announcer doing the show.
One of those underrated commentary teams is Jim Ross and Bobby Heenan, because I think they were like Wrestling Challenge or something in '93, and they were a good commentary team that I don't think gets mentioned because not many people do.
WrestleMania 9
with
WrestleMania
Savage.
9 in
But I
Vegas.
love Savage as a commentator. Some people hate him. I love him.
You just get used to it. I mean, in Savage, you might think, well, Savage is a little over the top with the voice and everything. But think about it. Savage never, and I noticed this, unless it was a personal issue, they mostly were crushed during that WrestleMania 10 storyline. Savage never talked about, well, I would do this and I would do that. Savage completely removed himself as a worker and dove into the commentary. Did you notice that?
It's not by his own choice. He had so much to give, but yeah.
Yeah, I know about giving. I'm talking about he could have went into business for himself and overshadowed the match with talking about what he did.
Like Jesse
he never
would have done. I mean, as much as I love Jesse would do that.
Oh, Jesse on the cage match.
Awful.
Did you hear that?
Awful.
They took him off the show, didn't they?
Man.
He didn't commentate after that match, did he?
No, but he's done that for all 3 of them so far. He does one match.
Well, this time it worked out because I think it's on Botchamania, right?
It should be if it isn't. But man, he just kept going on with himself, making up stuff. Something I want to ask you about Jim is your relationship with him as talent vice president. I don't know how many times talked to him or went with grievances or questions or whatever to Jim, but how would he receive you if you had a query or a complaint or anything? How was he as a boss, basically?
Well, I mean, obviously he uses a lot of terminology with football teams, rosters, players. So I can appreciate that as a football fan. The only real deep interaction I ever had with JR is the most important one of my life. That's where I had gained weight. I was up to 262. This was after that weigh-in Milwaukee where I weighed more than Bull Buchanan, Val Venus, and almost as much as Godfather. And that's when Ivory said, you're fat. Well, JR pulled me into the office. This is just before I went to HWA to train with Les Thatcher with a lot of the guys that were on the bubble to get released. He sat me down and he goes, your work rate and everything has diminished. You're not in shape anymore. You're missing spots. Your bumps look awful. He just basically, he gave me the honest feedback that I needed to hear. Not at that moment, but I needed to hear. And he goes, you need to go down to developmental. You need to take the weight off. You need to get better. We still might release you after that, but I'm giving you an opportunity to turn it around. That's what should exist more in wrestling. Real, true, honest feedback. And with an open-ended thing, a challenge. Hey, you go down here, you do that, you could save your job or you couldn't. Well, I'm thinking, well, okay, well, I got to get back in shape because at least I'll save my job. And if not, I'll be in shape to go somewhere else. So that interaction meant the world to me.
With the commentary, I don't know how many wrestlers, how many performers would do this, but would you ever go to Jim, or specifically Jim, let's say, because, you know, he'd be commentating on Raw a lot of the times when you were wrestling. Would you go up to him and try and explain certain things that you would do, or, you know, give him basically the reasoning that then he could explain to the fans at home?
I was never on that level for him to understand. And usually commentators go to the boys and ask questions. Usually that's something that the wrestler is commentating with JR or whatever. Kevin Kelly would ask for notes, Michael Cole sometimes, those kinds of people. Oh, I do have one other interaction that I had with JR. And this is when, I'm trying to remember the exact year. This is the late 90s. This is after ECW, my neck injury, all that stuff. I went to Titan Towers to try out for commentary with JR, and I was terrible. And I remember the Rocky match and dropping to people's elbow, and I was trying to really put it over, but I wasn't speaking in sound bites. And I found myself speaking as much as JR did, and it was a mistake. I even apologized afterwards. I go, JR, I'm not very good at this, but I want to get good. And then he was just kind of whatever. But you guys remember JR was getting ribbed by Vince all the time and, you know, basically tortured by that maniac. So he probably was in the back of his mind, like, I just want to get in, get out, and go home.
That was actually going to be my follow-up question. It's like, people always remember, or people always hear stories about Howard Finkel. Poor Howard Finkel would just be an absolute whipping boy for the people in the back. We've got to talk about Howard at some point in the future, our future episode. But Jim Ross always struck me as somebody who would just eat poo, take all these lumps. But people, what was it about Jim that everyone was it, as a fan, everyone loved him? I don't know about all the wrestlers, but what was it about The Office that apparently just didn't get on with Jim? I
have no idea. Do you think, this is purely speculation, do you think there's a hint of jealousy from Vince McMahon, the former commentator, and JR? Did Vince deep down think JR did a better job and it pissed Vince off?
I don't think you're too far off with that as well, because he fired him 5 times. I think it was as much Kevin Dunn. Just like, yeah, you're too southern, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's like nonsense.
Right up there with taking dental hygiene advice from Kevin, from whatever his name is.
Yeah. Or, you know, being
I love when Cornette. That's my guilty pleasure whenever you bring up that name, the Cornette, and hear the stories.
Yeah, in fairness, whatever half impression I'm doing, it's just based on Cornette. So,
yeah, go to Cornette. He does the best impression of all.
Oh, God, yeah, absolutely. Well, once again, we have to say, you know, get well soon, Jim Ross. We hope you're...
Yeah, let's go back. Yeah, that's beside the point. JR, please, the business needs you, but the world needs you. Just heal up, rest, and make sure, and let's all really just send him our thoughts and prayers that that thing is gone forever. He'll be in full remission, and he can get back to trying to call botches on AEW.
Absolutely. Or you know, just hating it when people do the 10 punches in the corner.
You know what? JR, I don't know. There's a version of JR that's almost like Do-Rag Vince on commentary where he's a menace. He just doesn't care. And he's like, oh, God, no, that was something.
Do you know what? They treat Jim Ross, right, like he's Jesse Ventura. You know, they only bring him out for the main event or the semi-main event. It's like, he can still do it. I mean, I know he sounds older and, you know, he probably doesn't keep up with the product as much as, you know, Tony Schiavone does as well, but it'd be nice to hear a bit more Jim.
How about if you do this? How about if you put something on the monitor that JR can interpret and get you over?
Wow. You mean like doing 6 finishes and kicking out of them all? It's like, well, it's obviously not a finisher then.
What's he supposed to say after the first 4? Hey, I think there's a time limit.